one thing was for sure. They both believed Sparks to be a total tool.
Be an exciting contest which shows that divorced couples can still have fun together, right?
Mythological hero H-list. C. On the spot dice spin.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Well, seeing as how last month we did the 2010 worst game show in the UK according to ukgameshows.com, this month, because of your votes in the Viewer's Choice poll, we're doing the 2011 worst game show in the UK according to ukgameshows.com. Once again, I thank you for that. And I also forgot this was also a former Waney finalist a few years back, so now it's time to finally give this show its just due. You see, Simon Cowell was untouchable in the UK. Well, after this show, he certainly was no longer untouchable. It's now time to talk about the ultimate disaster known as Red or Black.
Imagine if the only thing standing between you and £1 million was one question: red or black?
It's time for your first big decision.
Yes, red or black. It's what happens when somebody feels like he's untouchable in his home country, comes up with a really grandiose show, and forgets to come up with any conceivable format that people can get attached to so that they would continue watching. Instead, it became sure that neutered ITV for years. Being inspired by Ashley Ravel's gamble on Sky's documentary Double or Nothing, Simon Cowell convinced ITV to sink tens of millions of dollars into this show, thinking they would get the biggest ratings and become the smash hit of the TV season. Oh, how wrong would Simon and ITV be? Now, before I start talking about all of the show's faults, well, not all of them, but, a good chunk of them, the first thing I do want to talk about is the length of the show. Most game shows in this day and age are either a half hour or an hour long, or in the case of the UK, sometimes around 45 minutes because they do have a staggered programming block. Think of it as the way that in the 70s we did our soap operas, went from 30 minutes to 45 minutes and then a full hour. That's how Break the Bank in 1976 got canceled, even though it was the third highest rated game show in all of daytime, and still got a lot of great ratings. It was either third or second. I think it was second because third was $20,000 Pyramid, but you get the general idea. This show, Red or Black, is 2 hours long. That is way too long for one episode of a game show. Sure, there is some deal or no deal episodes here in the States, but some of them only went for like 90 minutes. But 2 hours is way too much, and it really stretched out a really thin premise.
Live from the Red or Black studio, please welcome your hosts, Ant and Deck.
Welcome to Red or Black, the extraordinary news show where luck and luck alone can win you £1 million.
And because this is a Simon Cowell produced show, he brought along his two mates, Ant and Deck. Those that aren't from the UK, they're known for being on almost every single show Simon Cowell produced, from Pop Idol to The X Factor to Britain's Got Talent. They're pretty much always there. It should also be known that I find both of them to be completely insufferable. I never liked anything that they have done in the past, and this show is no exception. I should also point out that game shows that have a pair of hosts that do the exact same thing are not needed and have never worked. In the US, Bob and Ray failed as hosts, the names the same. Any pair of hosts who did Just Like Mom were cringeworthy bad in various aspects. Bill Anderson and Sarah Purcell of The Better Six didn't work out at all. That was mainly because Sarah Purcell was bad at her job, but you see where I'm getting at. So let's talk about the game, and it is hollow as what's inside Ant and Dec's heads. The whole premise is this. For each episode of Red and Black in the first series, 100,000 contestants are selected and are whittled down to 10,000 so they can have the preliminary games at Wembley Arena. Yes, they are doing this at Wembley Arena, or at least a good chunk of it. All the contestants are presented with a situation they have to pick which one will win out, the red option or the black option. Pick right and you stay in the game, pick wrong and you're out. All this continues what seems to be forever until enough are eliminated so that they can do other style eliminations all throughout the country until they are able to whittle down the field so they can get them into the TV studio to finish out the show live in at least the last half hour or so. I know that a lot of shows during this time had overly simplistic gameplay, but at least shows like Deal or No Deal, Golden Balls, and others had a little more depth to them. Heck, even as similarly titled Heads or Tails had more complex gameplay by adding a few twists. Red or Black had no twists, and with all of the stunts drawn out to the point of not being exciting at all, it brought the entire show down hard, especially with all the other trappings of Simon Cowell's productions. Honestly, the show I compare this to is You Bet. Unlike Red and Black, You Bet was a little more in-depth gameplay-wise because it had multiple people aiming for certain things to make things more engaging, whereas Red or Black just mainly focused on the big mob rooting for the right color to win so they could win the potential million. Once the contestants are whittled down to 2, the duel is played. The 2 are shown a board of 8 sections of a circle where 4 are red and 4 are black. The contestants pick their color and start picking off numbers and hope they get all 4 of the colors so they can play for the cash before their opponent gets all 4. The whole show is really reminding me of the local lottery shows we had in the States during the 80s and 90s, with this game really reminding me of Cash Explosion's final round, where contestants pick numbers and hope their name's behind it, with the first to get all 3 of theirs wins the show and the $50,000. This type of game is fine for a lottery show. Here it's like they ran out of ideas. The same can be said for the main inspiration of the show, the gigantic roulette wheel for the end game. Once again, the contestant chooses red or black, and if the ball lands in the right color, they win £1 million. It's kind of feeling that a brainless show is built around one of the most brainless casino games out there because somebody who is completely brainless decided to brainlessly bet on red or black in order to double their money. If you can believe it or not, the show did get a second series on ITV. I guess they were contracted for 2 series, or ITV couldn't muster enough courage to tell Simon Cowell to fuck off. They changed a couple of things to make the entire show more of the You Bet style, and with only 8 contestants competing in each episode. The 4 that did the best after a certain amount of stunts advanced to the second half of the show to be aired after Britain's Got Talent. That's right, they decided to take a good show in Britain's Got Talent and make it the delicious cream to the awful cookies and the Oreo sandwich that was ITV. While the show was more streamlined, it wasn't any less dumb or overproduced. So we move on to the new final round called the Vortex. In this round, the champion launches a ball towards the center of which is flashing red or black. If they guess correctly, they win £500,000. If not, the money rolls over to the next show. At least the contestants have some responsibility for the game in that they decide how hard or how soft to launch the ball. But aside from that, it's still brainless. And that's the whole game of Red or Black. It was a dumb show inspired by someone else's dumb gamble and wound up flopping hard after the first episode, with ratings cratering to roughly 3 million. For a network that sank upwards of £15 million to produce this show, it was nowhere near the number they needed to break even. In short, it was a colossal flop. Now, if we just had that to talk about, it would have qualified for game show garbage by itself. I mean, overhyped flop, wafer-thin format, shit hosts. I mean, it's pretty much what game show garbage is built off of. Well, that and a rapping dragon, but you get my point. But, oh dear. It seemed like every day after the show debuted, there was a brand new controversy surrounding Red or Black. We'll take it straight to the beginning with the first episode and the show's first big winner, Nathan Hagman. Before the show aired live, he admitted to producers that he was arrested on a felony charge of assault. They didn't know who he assaulted, but committing a violent crime usually gets you disqualified from appearing on a game show. But since he was on the show, controversy reigned supreme and blew up the show. It was such that the Sun newspaper argued he should have to forfeit his winnings. The producers thought otherwise and he got to keep the money. We talked about this type of stuff during the Family Secrets induction where the production staff didn't properly vet their contestants. Thus you had a lot of families deemed ineligible to win their prizes and one of them had their episode pulled. That's what this felt like when they had their cattle call of an audition process to be on the show and didn't properly vet anybody that showed up. That's what bugs me about any show, for instance. If you're not going to properly vet your contestants, then don't have a show or just make it a celebrity-driven show. Because of this, the producers pulled any contestants with problematic past on future live shows. This happened twice during the first season, and when they went to live air, they gave us the "due to unforeseen circumstances" bit to say that they were on the show for being a felon. Vet your contestants, people! Series 2 had its share of controversy. For starters, we had a sponsor change. Domino's Pizza was a sponsor in the first series, and when the second series came about, the sponsorship was Wonga.com. Wonga is a predatory loan service that has come under fire for unethical treatment of their clients and everyone else. This raised a bit of fervor because the company is pretty much ran by assholes. So another black mark on the show. Also, one last bone of contention about the second series, and that has to do with the second episode of the series. I do apologize, but I don't have any clips of the Vortex game available to me, so here's the Vortex from the adventure game. During the Vortex, the champion chose black for what color the light would be when the ball hit the center. The ball wound up hitting the center while red, and thus the champion left with nothing. Or so we thought. Apparently, after the show finished taping and editing, the independent adjudicator checked the tape and it was found that it did land on black a few milliseconds before it turned red. Thus, the decision was reversed, and the champion did win the $500,000 that was offered that episode. But since all of the episodes were already taped before this happened, the jackpot did roll over. There is absolutely no excuse for this. If the segment is way too close to call, you stop down production and take it to the booth, and they're able to slow it down and check the footage. With a show like this, you want every single thing checked if you're giving away $500,000. So Psycho Productions looks like fools, and everybody else does as well for not properly checking the result immediately afterwards. No wonder this placed third in the 2011-2012 Wanies. Nothing about the show worked. The host, Overbrown Productions, zero, zip, not that. After the show ran its second series, the show mercifully left there in September of 2012. Thankfully, it hasn't returned to darken our screens again. And thus, that brings us to the end of the viewer choice polls for this year until the Wanies. I'd like to thank everybody for voting, suggesting various things to put on the lists. I just want to thank everybody for a good year this year. If you want to help out the show more here on YouTube or our website, feel free to go to Patreon at www.patreon.com/GameShowGarbage. Throw myself, Jessica Brand, and all of us here at Game Show Garbage a few bucks so we can help get more material out quicker. Until next time, bye-bye!